Hi, I'm Connie Fanders.
And I'm Nina McVeigh.
And Nina, have you ever looked at your machine and wondered, what am I going to do with all those decorative stitches?
I have.
Well, I have a place for them to go. And in fact, you are not limited to the stitches that are built into your machine. We have a feature called the Stitch Designer where we can design any stitch that we can imagine.
It's a great feature on the machine.
It really is. And for stitches, for inspiration for stitches, if you do want to design your own, I do like to go and look at different books.
And here we have 1,000 New Embroidery Designs by Joan Waldman. It looks like you've got something marked here.
I do. This was a wonderful book to go through and look at designs. And one thing in particular that I really liked about this book is all of the stitches are designed on a grid. And when we go to our machine to design a stitch, I can put a grid on my screen. And so I know exactly how many grids over to go when I set a stitch.
It's a great idea to copy stitches that have already been designed.
Well, exactly. And I also, one time while going to a flea market, I found this wonderful book too. So these are all great inspiration for those crazy quilt type stitches that we all love, and we generally do these by hand.
And now you can actually do them in the machine.
That's correct. Now one stitch in particular I want to point out is this one. This is a stitch I'm going to show you how to design and show you how easy it is to do on the machine. When you think about or you look at the stitches, you want to think about where the stitches are going to stitch into the fabric. So we would start here and we would set a stitch point here. We would set a stitch here and we would set one here, and we would continue setting stitch points at all these places. It's as simple as that. You just tell the machine where you want it to stitch and it does the rest of the work for you.
It's fantastic.
So let me show you how I designed this stitch on the machine. So now I have the Stitch Designer screen open, and I have selected the grid so I can see where to place my lines, and I've also selected the Snap to Grid.
Love that feature.
So now I'm going to just select on my screen where I want my first stitch, and I just continue to move up the screen. And if you remember the pattern that I had selected from the book, we have this little design on the top of our diamond, and then we continue down. Now once I get to a point where I can't work anymore, I can simply select Pan, move it up, and then finish my design. All you have to do is one sequence of the stitch, and then the machine will just automatically repeat it in the row of the stitching. So now I'm ready to stitch it out and see how it looks. I have just folded a crease in my fabric so I have a straight line, and we are ready to sew the new stitch we have just designed. And the stitch I designed is actually wider than the 9mm wide stitches. And that's another wonderful thing about the Stitch Designer, is you can make and create beautiful wide stitches. So you can see on this pencil case here, Nina, I have several rows of decorative stitches, and the ones up to this point here are ones that I designed in the Stitch Designer, and the ones here are built into the machine. So you can really expand the number of stitches that you have available to you.
Well, tell me about these, Connie.
This is very unique too. Well, first of all, I want to point out how the decorative stitches can really add a lot of dimension and character to your project.
What a great subtle embellishment.
It is, because here, this is the same fabric without the embellishment, and then here I did add the decorative stitches. And what I did with this stitch here is I took a stitch that was already built into the machine, and I brought it into the Stitch Designer and I distorted it. You can see here where I took a stitch and I made the center part of the flower longer just by bringing it into the Stitch Designer.
It looks great, Connie.
And it's so much fun to play with all the decorative stitches that are in the machine and ones that you can create. If you would like to learn more about the BERNINA Stitch Designer, visit your local BERNINA dealer today.